Ladies and gentlemen, once again, please welcome Patrick O'Neill.
All righty, good to see everyone again. We're going to jump right into our lunchtime keynote, but before we get into our keynote address, I would like to introduce Lynn Pickett. She is with KBR. She is our silver sponsor for the conference. By the way, I highly recommend if people have not already picked up the cool swag. This is very functional, by the way. I like this a lot. But Lynn serves as the Deputy Program Manager of the Human Health and Performance Contract at NASA's Johnson Space Center. Lynn, please join the stage.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everybody. Bright lights. So KBR is a proud CASIS partner and have over 50 years of human spaceflight experience. We have a strong legacy of delivering solutions for operations, research, engineering, and technology development. To learn more about our capabilities, please do come see our booth and talk to us about how we can partner for the future and accelerate and enhance your research in space. So to our keynote speaker, for more than 2 decades, Representative Robert Aderholt has been a leading advocate in Congress for the country's space program, including both civil and defense projects in his home state of Alabama and throughout the nation. He is serving his 13th term, representing Alabama's 4th congressional district. He is a member of the House Committee on Appropriations, which has jurisdiction over funding the operation of the federal government. Congressman Aderholt also serves as ranking member on the subcommittee on Commerce, Justice, and Science, and supports greater transparency, accountability, and oversight to the appropriations process. Representative Aderholt is here today to share his vision and priorities for the future of the International Space Station, building commerce in low Earth orbit, and human exploration. Congressman Aderholt really wants to hear from you all, so after his speech, he will be on the floor with his staff ready to talk to everybody. So please join me now in welcoming Congressman Robert Aderholt to the stage.
Well, good afternoon. It's good to be with you today. Thank you, Lynn, for that introduction, and I am honored to be here this afternoon. Wow, this is a great crowd, and I know the conference has been going on for the last few days and wrapping up tomorrow, and got to walk through some of the exhibits out in the exhibit hall, and impressive. And thank you for all the work that you do. I do want to thank the Center for Advancement of Science in Space, also NASA and the American Astronautical Society for hosting this event and for inviting me here today to share some thoughts. I have a couple of people from my office with me. I have Matt, who is with me, does our communications, and also Dwayne, who works on this portfolio, on the space portfolio in my office. Dwayne works as my legislative assistant. So while I have actually, after I speak, I have got to head back to the Hill, but Dwayne will be around, so please look for Dwayne. He's right up here, sitting here at the front table where I was sitting, so he is going to be around, and so please feel free to grab him, and also I'd be happy to, and when you're on Capitol Hill, come by my office and we will chat as well. But again, it's an honor to be here, and especially with such an impressive crowd, and thank you for the work that you do for space exploration and for the future of this country. It was December the 14th, 1972 that U.S. astronaut Gene Cernan climbed aboard the Lunar Module Challenger. He left behind the last human footprints on the moon. And with that mission, the Apollo program, which had achieved a great democratic victory over communism and the Soviet Union by putting Americans on the moon, it came to an end. It is difficult to believe that 2 generations have been born who have not seen a human on the moon. We diverted our focus and we turned our backs on space exploration as a nation. Now we find ourselves standing on the precipice of a new era in space, a new era in which adversaries like China are actively seeking to fill the void we have left behind. Just as when the Soviets launched Sputnik in 1957, we see China doing the same thing today with their own program. Yet the space race of today is not like the one we faced with the Soviets. One can actually argue that the space race today has far more on the line. Over the last 5 years, we've seen the Chinese rapidly increase their cadence in missions to space. They've achieved the first ever robotic soft landing on the far side of the moon, retrieved the first lunar samples since the 1970s, successfully landed a rover on Mars, and today they seek to land Chinese astronauts on the moon by 2030. In the last year alone, we've witnessed the Chinese development and establishment of their own space station with blinding speed. With this new station, China plans to foster commercial activities and further its hostile efforts to displace U.S.-led international system, no longer just on Earth, but in space as well. In this new era where the United States is being challenged across every sector, our American space enterprise cannot afford to lose focus or the momentum. Therefore, to ensure the United States remains the global space power, we must commit to a set of pillars that are based on principle in order to uphold it. The pillars of leadership, permanence, harmony, security, and support. First, the U.S. must maintain and enhance its clear leadership in space. This means fully supporting the Artemis program and its deep space exploration infrastructure. Like the Space Launch System and Orion, while also maintaining an aggressive cadence of cutting-edge science missions, including the Mars sample return. As we advance the Artemis program, NASA must continue to actively recruit allied nations to join us in implementing the Artemis Accords, and the National Space Council must lead the efforts to leverage key national assets across all federal agencies to help meet these demanding goals, all while continuing the international community and leading by example. The United States must also establish a strong, permanent American presence in space. In low Earth orbit, we must support U.S. industry efforts to develop commercial space destinations and a thriving economy so that our adversaries do not fill the gap. Beyond low Earth orbit, NASA must enhance its partnership with the commercial space industry to guarantee Gateway is developed on time, that the U.S. lunar base is fully functional and sustainable, and that we have the necessary nuclear technologies to go on to Mars. Furthermore, the U.S. success in space cannot be expected to be shouldered by NASA alone. As leaders, we must foster harmony between NASA and the private sector to meet our ambitious space goals and timelines. That means leveraging national assets like the Space Launch System, the most powerful rocket that NASA has ever built, with commercial space resources. It also means recognizing the success of companies like Blue Origin and SpaceX who have invested their own resources in supporting NASA, not replacing NASA. In an era of increasing collaboration, we will continue to see this type of growth in private industry initiative and the expansion of NASA's role as both a leader and trusted partner. Importantly, in order for the space industry to grow and to flourish, agencies across the executive branch must provide regulatory certainty so that essential American innovation is not hindered by red tape and bureaucracy. Additionally, we must ensure security in space by aggressively countering adversarial ambitions. This includes addressing the dramatic progress of China's space program, Chinese espionage, and also having a serious discussion about the future of the U.S.-Russian relations in space. Of course, as many of you know, the Russians have just announced plans to leave the International Space Station after 2024 and to pursue their own station. This message, as we're looking to extend the life of the station through 2030 in the CHIPS bill, and the conference is ongoing, this could not be more timely. It's a message that only furthers the narrative that Russia is an erratic partner. This behavior is why in FY23 House Commerce, Justice, and Science bill, I included a provision mirroring that of the Wolf Amendment for Russia. With the exception of the International Space Station and other ongoing cooperative activities, the provision closes in on Russia and hopefully sends a message that so long as current hostilities continue, the United States will also be narrowing its scope of cooperation in space. With these constantly shifting threat assessments, NASA and the Department of Defense must be prepared to fulfill their unique role to deter and contain these endeavors on all fronts. And finally, Congress must work with NASA and other federal agencies to cultivate the support base for tomorrow. The U.S. workforce, industrial base, and the talent of future generations are critical for our space exploration goals. Our nation must continue to invest in STEM programs and facilities to maintain cohesion between the United States education system and the space industry. We must ensure a pipeline of skilled workers at NASA and in the industry, and along with the infrastructure fundamental to fostering innovation and a 21st century space economy. To fully exercise these pillars and ensure the U.S. leadership in space, I would encourage the American space enterprise to achieve 11 critical markers by the end of this decade. As you know, we recently celebrated the anniversary of Apollo 11. And just as Apollo 11 brought Americans to the moon and set us on this great journey of exploration, these 11 markers seek to inspire us to do the same thing. Number one, we must further our cooperation and collaboration with allies in space. As aspiring spacefaring nations join the Artemis Accords, we should seek to expand it beyond simply being a framework for exploration. Just as we cultivate allied nations in their defense capabilities, we should likewise consider bolstering their space capabilities. Strategic investments in allied space activities will not only advance humanity forward, but also increase integration with the American space system as opposed to the authoritarian ones like China. Number two, we must continue to establish rules and norms in space. If we are to continue the lead in this system on Earth, our rules and base framework must extend also into space. In doing so, simultaneously set an example for rising spacefaring nation and prevent rogue nations like China from taking the lead. Number three, we must embolden our National Space Council to lead the American space enterprise. In order for the United States to excel and meet the goals of this new era in space, we need an all-of-government approach. This will require the serious focus of the executive branch and the ability to leverage national assets from across all federal agencies. Doing so is vital to ensuring that we achieve our goals and further provide seriousness of American commitment to this challenge. Number four, we must maintain a human presence in low Earth orbit and establish an ongoing lunar presence. As we continue toward a post-International Space Station environment, it is vital that we continue to maintain a human presence in low Earth orbit. Success of programs like the commercial LEO destination will be critical towards ensuring a continued human presence and activity. Beyond LEO, as most of you are aware, NASA is currently on track for a moon landing in 2025. And upon its success, we must embark upon the completion of Gateway and the establishment of a functional and sustainable lunar base by 2027. Both will serve as test beds for teaching us how to truly live and thrive in the harsh environment of space. Development of fission surface power, studies of lunar materials, and the testing of life support system are just a few of the benefits of this permanent presence. These facilities will not only ensure safety for a future mission to Mars, but also open the doors to commercial opportunities on the moon and in deep space. Number 5, we need to also ensure that the Office of Space Commerce is forward-leaning and resilient to the regulatory environment of the future. The rapid increase of activity in low Earth orbit has been an incredible sign of a growing space economy. Central to that growth, however, is a stable, transparent, and predictable space situational awareness coordination system at the Office of Space Commerce. The Office of Space Commerce is the epicenter for our next steps in furthering cultivating commercial space. Number 6, we must ensure NASA maintains an environment that cultivates innovation and ingenuity across its entire landscape. Diversity and redundancy across this environment will ensure that we will advance our priorities and that we not be beholden to the risk of following a single track or idea. In promoting their strengths across the United States commercial space enterprise, we must also recognize the changing landscape of the industry. Gone are the days of new space and old space, jockeying for relevance in separate lanes. In this new era, we only have American space, where companies like Boeing, SpaceX, Blue Origin, Lockheed Martin together propel our American space enterprise forward while maintaining their own unique strengths. NASA must leverage this diverse expertise from across our American space industry and utilize every aspect to the fullest. Number 7, we must garner greater cohesion between NASA and the Department of Defense. We must ensure that we can easily leverage NASA assets for space security, as well as the Department of Defense assets for NASA development. Utilization of the Space Launch System for national security launches, when it is economically feasible, as well as utilize the Space Force satellites for scientific research where needed, are just 2 ways in which this can be developed. While we may seek for space to be a secure and peaceful domain, it would be naive for us to think or even assume that Russia and China will do the same thing. Number 8, we also need to contain Chinese space ambitions. The obvious threat posed by the communist regime must be taken very seriously. Insulating our industry from Chinese espionage and securing our supply chain are just a few steps that are essential to curtailing their malicious tactics. Additionally, we must dedicate resources toward enhancing our cyber capabilities and strengthening our export controls if we want to protect American assets. Number 9, we must cultivate STEM workforce of tomorrow. Unfortunately, compared to past decades, there are more American children aspiring to be TikTok influencers, whereas Chinese children dream of becoming astronauts. This is unacceptable, and if the U.S. is to continue to lead, we must have a workforce that reflects our ambitions. Strengthen NASA and industry STEM partnership with academia are crucial to changing these trends. Number 10, we must constitute NASA's infrastructure. The facilities of the Apollo era will not be sustainable for Artemis and beyond. Ensuring that NASA has a robust infrastructure plan that each NASA center can easily, efficiently, and cost-effectively deploy is vital. Infrastructure investments, as well as partnerships with the private sector to meet the goals of this plan, are essential. Launch pads, operations, and administrative buildings underpin the success of our space programs. And finally, number 11, NASA must look forward to the technologies of future and lay the seeds for the industry. Just as NASA trailblazed with the Apollo in the 1960s and the shuttle in the 1980s, NASA must again do the same for Artemis and beyond in today's world. Technologies like nuclear propulsion, in-space manufacturing, and advanced habitation must be key priorities for development and demonstration during this decade. Dovetailing with NASA's recent set of high-level Moon to Mars objectives, these 11 markers that I mentioned will only further add to overall mission success. While these challenges may seem daunting, I believe that our American space enterprise can achieve them. Leaders in all aspects of the space community have a role. Many of you in this room here today will contribute to these endeavors and are critical to our nation's success. As the lead Republican on the Appropriations Subcommittee for Commerce, Justice, and Science, it will be a top priority for me to help marshal the power of the purse in support of these enterprises. Space and NASA have long been an area of bipartisanship in Congress, and that's the way that it should continue. And I commit to further that spirit of cooperation. In closing, we cannot afford to cede our leadership in space to authoritarian dictators or second-rate powers. Just as the United States has historically been an arsenal of democracy, the United States Congress must be an arsenal for support in space. As legislators, we must seek to provide all the resources and guidance necessary for NASA and our space industry to succeed swiftly and safely, and for all of you here to succeed as well. When Gene Cernan took his last step on the lunar surface, he believed America would be back in the not-too-distant future. As he always said in the years after, he was not the last person to walk on the moon, but was simply the most recent person to walk on the moon. When we inevitably return to the moon and begin our endeavor onward to the red planet, it will be because the United States, once again, rose to that challenge. And I believe it will be due in part to these markers that I've outlined here this afternoon. And the next person on the moon, that it is an American, and it's the first person on Mars as well as an American. May God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much.